What is good, everybody, man? Welcome into the Bluebloods official podcast of FCS Football Central. Myself, my guy, Coach Fred. As always, man, listen, it's been a busy few days for both of us, man. SWAC Media Day on Tuesday. Wednesday, I was busy traveling and got caught up, bad weather, all that. Then Thursday, Coach was busy. Friday, we were both busy, man. So we're a little late on this SWAC Media Day recap. But, man, we are here. Saturday show, as always, live on YouTube. Coach, I didn't know this. I guess I got to upgrade my personal Twitter account now and pay for a check because now you can't go live on Twitter unless you verified.
I did not know that.
Bro, Elon's out here taxing people on social media now. X is
Don't he have
expensive.
enough money already?
I don't
How
know, man.
how much is
Apparently
enough?
not. Apparently not. But man, listen, we got a lot of good topics to get into. Me and Coach are going to break down our experiences at SWAC Media Day, man. Really interested to hear Coach's perspective, man, as an active coach, getting some interviews in. I was joking with Andrew Roberts that you might never see an associate head coach currently active interviewing the commissioner at any other media day event. And so, man, Coach did his thing. We're going to talk about, listen, preseason all SWAC selections. We're going to talk predicted order of finish. We're going to talk major storylines, man. We're going to do it all today. But, man, Coach, how we feeling?
Man, feeling good, man. Just left a back to school giveaway deal here, and we got another one next week. So feeling good, man. See the youngsters. They're all excited right now. They're ready to get back to school, see their friends that they haven't seen all summer. I just want to do a recap on them about a week into school and see if they're still really all excited about getting back to school like they are today. But so today's been a good day, uh, and now we get to talk some ball. Oh man, let's go.
Oh, man, let's get to it, Coach. I mean, obviously, this was your first SWAC Media Day, man. Shout out to
Yes.
Said for letting you go, man. There's not a lot of coaches who would have let a coach on their staff show up, do interviews himself, interview with other people. So, man, shout out to Coach Said for being real innovative and allowing you to do all that, man. But Coach, I just want to hear your general takeaways, man. Just about your experience, stuff you heard. Just give me your overall takeaway of the event in Birmingham.
Man, it was different. Of course, that was my first one. So to see it and to hear how it was a few years ago compared to this one, man. I actually had a great time from the time we hit the door uh, to the time we actually left. Now, I will say that last day, we got to talk to, we got to get together, Andrew. We got to get that more lively. We got to come up with some different stuff because as it went, I think it just kind of drug just a little bit at the end. So we just got to find some different things in there to kind of tweak that up a little bit. But the experience itself, man, is something that I wish everybody could get a chance to see from, all the media personalities, from television crews that come in. Just the setup in itself is really, really, really something to see, man, and see it all work together. And, I had a great time. Hopefully I'll get a chance to come back again. But again, like you said, shout out to Coach Thomas, man, for allowing me to be there for that and actually get a chance to see it. So it was actually pretty cool, man.
Yeah, man, I think it's always good to catch up with everybody, man,
Hmm.
and talk, especially and I was talking to Scotty about this yesterday, man. Like my favorite part isn't even really the interviews and the stuff like that. Like that's really not what I'm there for anymore, bro. It's just to kind of talk to the coaches and players off camera. And just catch up and because I don't think people understand, Coach, the conversations off camera are
Oh man.
are just different, and you get a
Uh,
lot more information, man. Shout out to my guy Evan Henry, man. He's gonna know what I'm talking about. But shout out to my guy Evan Henry, and talk about that ULM game and what Jackson is gonna do in that one. But
yeah.
Coach, there's the biggest takeaway that's always there is the preseason all SWAC, the predicted order of finish, things like that, man. So I'm gonna pull that up real quick. Let me get us down here, Coach. First team all conference here.
Yep. Yep.
We got the SWAC offensive player. Real quick, let's do player of the years real quick. I didn't pull those graphics. So we know who they are. Miles Crawley, Grambling State, a quarterback. You had Givens from Southern, edge rusher, defensive end, defensive player of the year. Coach, any surprises there? I know, obviously, yeah, I know who you would prefer as SWAC Defensive Player of the Year, but yeah, I mean, were you surprised by either selection?
I After thinking about it, I really wasn't, so to speak, with the offensive player of the year. Um, at first, I was, but then when I thought about it, I was like, okay, yeah, that's really the obvious choice when we're talking about returners, starters. So um, defensively, I think that could have went either way. I'll leave that at that. That could have went either way. But at the end of the day, I think we talked about this a lot last year. It's a preseason deal. No sense in getting, your blood pressure up super high about it. But I can understand, some pushback from one side of this, but from the other one, I don't know what other choice you could have went with offensively.
Yeah, especially because I mean, we can just go ahead and start here. The whole offensive snap count
Was
issue,
different. That was
or
different.
not even offensive snap count, just snap count in general. So
Yeah.
apparently, just to give you guys perspective, the reason that some obvious players were missing is because they did supposedly, this is what I was told by some of the SIDs I talked to, is that they did not play enough snaps in the previous season to qualify for all conference, which, Coach, do I get that rule for postseason? Yes. Like, obviously, if you're going to be the player of the year in December, or you're going to be all conference, you probably should have played a majority of the season. I have no problem with game or snap count limits for postseason awards, but preseason is supposed to be projections, right? I mean, from what I
Right.
understand, it's a combination of projections past what you've done
Right.
in the past. Why, Coach, is there any question? I don't know, what, there were 12 head coaches there,
Hmm.
yourself, Coach O, some assistants. Is there a coach there that would have not picked Irv Mulligan first in a running back fantasy draft?
I don't think so.
I mean, how do we have a preseason all conference list and the arguably the best returning running back in the conference isn't there? Coach, he ranked second, if I'm not mistaken, in rushing yards in the conference and didn't even play the back end of the season.
Right. That and I was trying to Google to see, but I guess I got the encyclopedia right next to me. Um, I didn't know that was even a deal, so to speak.
Yeah.
Snap count when we're talking about the preseason type thing. And again, I'm like you. I get it when we're saying end of the year because I could play the last 3 games of the year and go crazy, and I understand why I shouldn't get player of the year. I get that. But I didn't understand that part when we're saying preseason, just because it's a preseason deal. But again, if it's a rule, it's a rule.
And this is what gets me, because someone put it in the chat too. Irv had double the carries of one of the running backs on second team.
Mm. Now
So
I really thought he was a shoe in for that, and then that was the one that I was saying, okay, I can understand why not player of the year. I can understand that if that
Coach,
makes sense.
that we'll get to it when we get to second team. Because listen, I don't have any problem with Eaglin being first team. He would have been the second choice in my opinion. It should have been Irv and Eaglin on the first team. Like, Eaglin's done it for 2 years now. The
Oh, I
kid's a
know.
baller. So I have no problem with Eaglin. And Rhymes is good. I'm not taking Rhymes over Irv Mulligan though. So that's just my perspective on it. Like, if they want to put 3
And
running
I'm with
backs on there, I'm fine with that. Now, offensive line, I didn't have a huge issue with. Grable's fine. Aurelius Dunn's fine. Evan Henry's fine. Now, Martin and Church are interesting, Coach, because I think you probably put them on second team at most, just because there's a guy on second team, Coach, who was ranked a top 10 offensive tackle in FCS and was second team all conference.
Yeah, and again, I'm not going to push the agenda of where I get paid from, but we had a guy that I guess fell in that game,
The snap
snap
range.
count. But again, what are we getting here? You know what I mean? Because like you said, we've got guys that are ranked in the top 10 and in other areas that are making second team. But I mean, again, it's preseason. Don't want to be too technical about it. But I will also ask, how many actually know who they're actually checking for, if that makes sense?
Out of the voters?
Yeah. Who actually knows? And I'll just say, first name. Who actually knows DeMarcus outside of our campus? Maybe a few other coaches, but do they really know who he is as compared to? Oh, we definitely know who Jarvion is. We definitely know who Aaron is. But the guys up front, nameless heroes, do they really know them? You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's the big thing. I think offensive linemen, I don't know how you would fix it per se, but it's like you said, it's kind of a nameless position. But Carson Vincent should have been a unanimous first team selection, in my opinion, from Alabama A&M. Also, another guy who apparently didn't make the snap count limit is Jalen Goss from FAMU. I don't know. I want to say he was all SWAC first team coach in the postseason. So, or 2 years ago, I guess it was, because I guess last year he didn't make postseason because he didn't play enough snaps. But it doesn't make any sense to me how the snap count thing's weird. I don't have any problem, coach, real quick, with wide receiver or tight end. I think McCray and Hewitt are fine. I don't know who you would really argue would be over them right now, especially because if I'm not mistaken, I don't think transfers that come from out of conference are eligible.
Now, and I get that part. I understand that part. The guys that hadn't done it, or as we say, have SWAC hours. I get that part totally. But guys that played 5 games in the SWAC, I think should be, eligible for that, for the preseason awards. But again, that's just, my opinion.
I'll say this: defensive, I don't have a lot of issue with, especially in the front seven. Bailey Givens were probably consensus guys. Traquan Thomas is a guy who I was really high on, coach. I personally thought that was a really good pick because I didn't know if he was going to get overlooked. I'm trying to pull up our postseason all-SWAC team because obviously ours differ a pretty good bit from the conference office a lot of the times. But I thought Traquan Thomas was a solid player last year for Alabama State and probably would move up, in my opinion, to first team. I'm trying to make sure I had him on here. Yeah, Traquan for us last year, coach, was second team all defense. So that would make sense that he would jump up there.
Natural move.
Progression.
Yeah.
I don't mind CJ Presley per se. Rico Dozier, Jacob Williams, obviously are there. DeMarcus Cunningham was another guy, coach, I thought would get overlooked. He was second team all conference for us last year, but not the conference office. Defensive back, Bowler should be an obvious pick there. Pate as well, I think, was an obvious pick there at safety. Both of those guys were first team all conference last year, coach. But James Burgess, I don't have a huge problem with, coach. He is probably one of the top NFL prospects in the SWAC. He was second team all conference for us last year. Deco Wilson, though, is where I kind of push back a little bit, because if you're including players that transferred in conference, Robert McDaniel should go in that spot, in my opinion.
I'm with you.
That's at least that would at least be my pick, because I look at everyone else who was on second team last year, all kind of left. Christian Davis is gone. Eric Smith graduated from FAM. Keenan Leachman from Alcorn's gone. And then you had James Burgess, who's on there. And then Jawan Lewis from PV. Maybe I think he's gone, if I'm not mistaken, too. So I don't have a problem with it. I just think when you look at the NFL potential, you look at the production, you look at that he was an HBCU All-American. I personally think Robert McDaniel should have slid in that spot.
Somewhere in there.
Yeah. And then going to second team defense, I
Hey,
mean,
but that first team defense, uh, I would line up and play some folks with that.
yeah, because you think about, well, okay, so here's the one pushback I have, Coach, and this is just how do
Well,
I
you got
put
to
it?
give me my fifth defensive back, though. I got to play with 5 defensive backs.
Agree with that. I think they have to change. I've said that for 3 years now. You have to change the number of positions. You have 2 wide receivers, Coach. How many teams in the SWAC play with 2 wide receivers in any formation?
None.
Okay, so increase the number of wide receivers. I will say this though, Coach. Where's the defensive tackles?
That part. That was
I'm
the other
sorry, you
thing that
can't.
I heard within the building, from different tables that I went to, because again, you get a little uh, enamored with the flashes of Malachi coming off the edge, of Givens doing his thing, not realizing that those guys in the middle are the ones that are pushing those quarterbacks to the side one way or another. So I think it has to be a differential of what you're going to do up front. I agree with you 100%. Got to be DTs in there somewhere, at least 2 spots. Everybody plays with at least 2. So, I think that kind of goes to the argument as well with the way that football is kind of changed. You know,
Yeah.
Nobody's really playing with just 2 receivers.
Mm-mm. And I mean, I just you see, offensive line is different because you have spots for the offensive line, but defensive tackles is one of those positions, Coach. I just don't think the average person knows how to evaluate most of the time. Like unless it's like an
Because you're
Aaron
looking at
Donald. Yeah.
yeah,
Like obviously everyone knows Warren Sapp, Aaron Donald, Ndamukong Suh were dominant, but not
different
everybody
dudes.
gave not everybody gave the Vince Wilforks
Oh,
the of the
Tony
world.
Siragusa's, God rest his soul, the
Yep.
Goose. Those guys are very important, within the scheme of things when you're talking defense. And I don't think you can find a defensive coordinator or a person that, knows ball that would say, you really don't need them. Oh, you do. Because those are the guys that plug it up, that keep those linebackers, that keep the Doziers clean, that keeps the Williams clean. If you don't have those guys, you know, it's single up front and let's get up to the next level, that kind of thing. So, yeah, it's very important. I just don't know how you list it, like you said, because they're not going to have, most of the time, they're not going to have Sapp, Donald numbers.
No.
So how do you go about doing that?
I'll
Would
say
be
this.
my thing.
I think the 2 that have first team arguments, and one coach didn't even make all conference, which is insane, was James Ash from FAMU should have probably been there at D tackle, and then Jeremiah Williams probably had a pretty strong argument for first team if we have a defensive tackle spot. Those are the 2 guys who I would probably. I'm trying to think if there's any other that I might be missing, but those are the 2 that are by far and away the best. Like Jeremiah Williams was up for the top 10 FCS defensive tackles, and also on top of that too, James Ash was like number 7 or 8, I think. So, Coach, I mean, just to put in perspective, I was talking to Ken Clark last night.
Shout out.
Shout out to Ken. Coach, there were 3 players from the SWAC who were ranked top 10 in their position that didn't make all conference.
See, and that goes to me, my point, that I just think a lot of us coaches don't really know the faces with the names, so to speak. You know what I mean? I hate to bring it up because the kid's not. Well, I can bring it up because he's not in the conference anymore. But you know, what General Hunt had made this list. First team. Uh, my guy out of Texas Southern, who's out of the conference now, would he have made this deal? And those guys were game changers up front that didn't have major numbers, but they were game changers. They were
Yeah.
kicking butt, taking names. So I just think at the end of the day, you're gonna always have it. It's gonna be a conversation piece, but I think that the SIDs have got to do a better job of helping the coaches know who is who. But I don't know how you get to that, if that makes sense.
The problem is I don't know if the coaches, because coach, I mean, so what team didn't y'all play last year? Because you're in a unique spot, so I'm gonna throw it on said.
We didn't play Bama A&M.
Yeah, would said last year be able to tell you the 5 best players on Alabama A&M last year?
No, because as I'm thinking, I don't know if we even had tape of them playing someone that we would have broken down, to actually have seen them. I don't know if we would have had, if my wife is, I don't know if we would have had tape to even look at, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And even at that point, even if we do have those games and we're not playing them, are we actually going to the roster to see who number 51 is? We don't really have that time to do that. So does it become a multiple choice kind of thing? I'm going to give you some names, A, B, C, and D, of the top guys in this position. I think that'd be a great job for you to put together. I think the SWAC should hire you to put that together. And now all they have to do is they go in and they circle who it is, and there we go. I think that'd be a great job for you.
Now, I think there should be a team, and I think Ken put it the best way, is there's people in the media space who cover outside the SWAC,
right?
Too, and could more and tell you where players rank. So I think even bro, a guy like Gerald Huggins who writes for the site, works for Draft HBCU, is a national scout for the Shrine Bowl. Coach, why isn't he on a board putting together lists? Why aren't the people who are actually doing the work like Emory Hunt, coach? We talked to him at the Legacy Bowl.
Yeah.
Emory Hunt would know scouts and actually watches the film. That's the thing. And coach, I've said this before, SWAC Media Day. I don't necessarily anymore blame the SIDs or coaches, just because coach, they're really not paid to get this right.
No.
They're paid to win games. So why would Say go out of his way to watch film on Valley if y'all don't play Valley?
Right. And that's that's my whole thing. I just think at the end of the day, it's a conversation piece. Mm-hmm. We had to tell our kid who was a little upset about it. They didn't hand out certificates. They didn't hand out medals. None of that. So this is more for us, the fans. But I understand at some point, you're like, hey, man, nobody plays in 21 personnel anymore. So, we can't just have 2 receivers because there's some other deserving guys. Even if we say, okay, everybody's playing in 11 personnel, that at least adds another receiver. And then I think we've got to look at, I don't want to say athlete, but, back in the day, they used to have
all-purpose.
Yeah, I think we need to add that as well. And I think that kind of gives you an opportunity to kind of expand and recognize more of, guys that are shining within our conference.
It's funny because our All-American teams have 2 all-purpose positions. Okay. We have an all-purpose offensive position for the running backs, wide receivers that do both, or we've also put quarterbacks, like Montana State's quarterback, all-purpose player, because he ran for 1,000 yards too on top of that, and they run that weird offense. And so his passing stats probably aren't good enough, coach, to get him, over the Gronowskis. But
he's balling.
He's balling. So we got an all-purpose there. And we also got an all-purpose special team spot, which are guys like Junior Bergen, coach.
Got to have that because he's doing his deal. You know what I mean? He is a game changer in the return game. And, you can make All-American as a returner. So, I think those are some things that, we kind of got to get to adding. And I would love to see the utility athlete on both sides, but we've got to at least add it to the specialist list.
Yeah. There is a specialist list. I don't think there's all-purpose though. I think there was like a return specialist on it. But shout out to Mr. Campbell in the chat, man. Thank you for tuning in. Second team defense, man. It's preseason, so it's splitting hairs. I'm really not going to break this down too much. The one thing I say is James Ash should have been somewhere on some list. I mean, I don't know how James Ash didn't get put on here. Same for Robert McDaniel, but I don't have like any. Like I'm just gonna bang the table for someone to be second team. It's just not there. I am glad to see Isaiah Guthrie there. Amon Scarborough is another guy who I wasn't sure if I was gonna get it. Edwin from Alcorn too. I wasn't sure if he was gonna get the recognition, but offense coach, I think this is the second team offense is probably where I saw the most focus because I mean let's just go like this.
Let's cut to it.
Coach, there's a running back on here. I won't say his name. It is one of the two. Had 87 carries for 300 yards and 4 touchdowns and averaged less than 4 yards per carry, but is second team all conference.
Again, I think that kind of goes to not really knowing those numbers, like you just said, and let's just mark it up and get it done. No offense to the kid, but I mean,
I'm blaming you, Coach. You're the reason he's on here.
At this point, I think this is where the kid from the school up the street could have definitely fell in,
yes,
and probably should have fell in. But at the end of the day, I'm gonna always circle back to my. Hey man, nobody got a certificate, nobody got a medal, nobody got a trophy for this. This is strictly for us. And I'm gonna leave it at that.
Y'all gave
where's my crazy Alice?
Man, hey, y'all gave up the season high to him, so I'm blaming you for this selection on that one, man. He rushed for he rushed for a career high 80 yards against y'all, so that's your fault. It's all Corn's fault, guys. Go ahead and take that one. But I don't have a problem with Kelvin on here, bro. I mean, he was a Celebration Bowl MVP last year.
I don't think many people remember that though.
No, I don't. Coach, I'm gonna say it, and this is super controversial. I'm taking Body and Jacoby and Morgan at quarterback here over Jace right now.
Morgan fell into that, if I'm not mistaken. He fell into the snap count number or whatever.
Morgan and Body both did because Body didn't play last year.
Right.
So
right.
If you take both of them out of the equation, I have no problem with Jace being here. But if it's a projection, I do think that those two guys are probably going to have better or equal seasons if this is a true projection.
Yeah. And they have SWAC hours, so they should qualify in that sense.
And I agree with Mr. Campbell. I mean, it's just, the biggest thing for me was just Irv Mulligan not being here. Coach, I mean, that would be, I don't even know what to put it, like how to put it in perspective. That would be like the Big Sky not including Eli Gilman or something like that. Like the best running back in the conference doesn't get all conference. What are we? And then the other thing, bro, NA is crazy to put on this graphic. Just
now,
turn it off. Just erase it.
That was one of the issues that I had was just because, I mean, we could have put something. You could have put Coach Fred there. You know what I mean? Just because. But the NA part of it, I didn't like that part, because we have how many teams in the conference?
12.
Who has how many kids on the roster? I'm blaming you for this one.
That blaming me, bro?
Yeah, because you didn't point it out. You should have pointed this out before
you
should have been there.
You
should have been there on Friday. Yeah, I'm blaming you on this one.
Bro, there are. I'm trying to even put it into words. Okay. Here's my thing, and I'm laughing because it's really funny, Coach. Why just not take that spot off the graphic? If you just deleted it, nobody would have known. Nobody would have known.
Nobody would have caught it, no doubt about it.
Oh God, Jesus Christ! Wow, Coach, someone sat on the graphic and typed NA and said, "Bro, send it to the presses." Go ahead and print it out. Oh my God, bro, that's so stupid. Like,
hit enter. Yeah, they hit enter. No doubt.
Bro, someone's got to get fired for that. Whoever's the intern for the SWAC office I mean, Coach, and I'm not even just justifying it for this school. I can name an offensive lineman probably on every school that could have been there. Coach, there's a freshman All-American left tackle at Jackson coming back.
Yeah, that kid up the street's not bad. Yeah.
Alcorn has an all-conference offensive lineman that apparently didn't qualify. FAM had 2. Their center, TJ, I think, should have gotten it in there too. And you had Goss.
Yeah. I mean, there were names to pull from. Ain't no doubt about it. And I don't know if that was just I'm going to say that was what do you call it? Oversight? Yeah.
I don't know.
Mistake.
And Mr. Campbell has a really, really good question. What if a SWAC player of the year gets hurt, sits out a year? You're telling me that player wouldn't get all SWAC votes, apparently. And I mean, Mr. Campbell, the closest thing we've seen to that is Irv Mulligan. Coach, we were talking about if it wasn't Miles Crawley, Irv Mulligan had an argument for SWAC Offensive Player of the Year.
Yeah. I mean, his numbers were crazy. Not just within the conference, but in all of 1AA football. I like saying 1AA football instead of FCS. But anyway, his numbers were there with other conferences, you know. And I'm just going to chalk that up as an oversight, a mistake. Yeah. There was actually a name down, but they were going so fast trying to get it out that they hit enter without being able to put the name on there. So, that's what I'm saying.
Obviously, I have no problem with Jackson Davis being tight end for Valley. I mean, the kid, freshman All-American, baller. I don't have any problem really with Gassett or Javon Robinson. I'll look around the conference, Coach. There are some question marks at wide receiver for a lot of teams. I think that's a conversation we have failed to have. Alcorn, a lot of new faces at wide receiver. Jackson, outside of McCray, has some young guys who have to step up. Bethune's got some questions at wide receiver. FAM's got new faces at wide receiver. A&M, outside of Hewitt, has some new faces at wide receiver. A&M's got a lot of transfers. Now, I'll say this. A.J. Toney is going to be a problem for Alabama A&M. All-conference kid from Stanford, went to Middle Tennessee State, didn't really see the playing, didn't see the field as much. I think he's going to be really, really good. Southern, wide receiver question marks, Coach. Grambling lost all their wide receivers outside of maybe Javon.
And I think in Texas Southern lost their guys, their main guys. I think outside of the quarterback position, if we were saying the unknown, it's got to be that position.
Maybe the kid from PV, Shamar Savage. I wouldn't have minded him being on there. If we expanded this to 3 wide receivers, I think he gets there.
Yeah, without question.
Yeah, I think that's that's probably the spot for him. But Coach, this is the conversation. Everyone's
no doubt. I'm very upset about this. Let's go. Kick it off.
Coach, you've been playing the underdog card. You said, man, we're just little old Alcorn over here. Don't pay attention to us. No one thinks Alcorn's doing anything. And here y'all are sitting at the top of the list, 112 votes, Coach, to win the West, go to the SWAC championship. Your thoughts?
Very, 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 very upset with this. I think it was a plot against us to do this because, now they want to put the bullseye on us. But nah, in all seriousness, man, I've always said, and you can go back and check previous shows that we've had. I've always been the one that says, the guy that left there last year is the guy that should be there when you come back at the beginning.
Yep.
Not just the West. PV should definitely be there. They want it. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. I understand in the East. I understand we'll stay in the West right now. Uh, PV should be there, no doubt about it. I would have been very happy or satisfied with us being in the two spot, being that that's where we finished at.
Yep.
You know, so I think you take those away, and you move PV to the one. I'm good with the two. 3 and 4 gonna be very good races. And if you go back to our previous show, I think I kind of put it this way, just because you just don't know. And I think when you round it out, I think it's pretty much what everybody has in mind. I just don't like the 1 and 2 spot. I just feel like PV should have been in the 1 spot just because they're the people that won it last year.
I think, it's funny. We go back to our over-unders. I think this was the exact order we had the West, if I'm not mistaken, because I had Alcorn, PV, and I said it was a big gap between them. You look at the gap, 112, 104 to 72, all the way down in third. I still think Grambling's a little bit better than Southern right now, especially just with I look at recruiting, Coach. When there's some massive question marks across the board, I go with the team that had the best recruiting class. And I think Grambling had a better recruiting class than Southern right now. And so I don't mind it being super close, 72 to 70 votes, like real close.
Yeah.
I'll say this. I was more surprised that UAPB was right there in that group.
Yeah, really close.
Could you imagine if UAPB was voted above Southern?
Ooh.
I don't know if that's ever happened in SWAC history.
You talk about setting some stuff on fire. Ooh-wee.
And then I think the biggest takeaway from the West for me is just how low people think Texas Southern is going to be this year. Now, I don't, am I super high on Texas Southern? No, but Coach, if I'm not mistaken, me and you picked them to win more games than UAPB.
Yeah.
And I mean, the funny thing is, Coach, you look at the West. Now, y'all are a different case, but I'm still going to say y'all have a new quarterback because Mako only started like one game for you guys. So it's still a new quarterback per se. PV has a new quarterback. Grambling has a returning quarterback, but question marks everywhere else. Southern's going to have a new starting quarterback. UAPB is going to have a new starting quarterback. Texas Southern's the only team with the returning quarterback, and everyone thinks they're going to be the worst in the conference, worst in the division. It's super backwards how the SWAC office usually votes.
I think the TS deal is just because of how late they got started in the situation. They've kept everything very close to the vest. Even there at Media Day, I don't think Coach Dishman said a whole bunch outside of we're going to work every day to get better. I don't think he gave anything else to anybody unless he did something, with you. I think he was probably the guy that had the same quote for everybody that he talked to. So I understand because they're so unknown. With what they got, what they're doing, they're so unknown. But I am with you on the amount of votes that UAPB got, and that they are that close to Southern. I think you had it this way, and I think I had Southern on top of them, but pretty much the same order.
Yeah, yeah. So, Coach, were you around when Said voted for this?
No.
Do you have you been around the voting? Can Said vote Alcorn first if you wanted?
No.
Then who voted Valley first?
Unless they changed it this year, from my understanding, you can't. From with our previous head coach, that you can't.
Okay, because that makes the Valley first place vote so much more confusing.
But this is why our show is the best, because it's live.
Okay, go ahead.
Let me get some information on that right there real quick.
Yeah, let's see if coaches can vote for their own team. Um, so Mr. Campbell said they had all those players and they only won 4 games. So that and the top players leaving is not shocking where TSU is. That's a fair assessment because
Yeah, because
I
they
don't
had.
think
Yeah, I'm with him
because
on that.
they had the best running back in one of the best running backs in the country last year in Ladarius Owens. His backup was all conference at one point. Then you had that tight end who was all conference. You had a solid offensive line. Coach, they had a defensive tackle who's now playing for Baylor. You had Jacob Williams at linebacker. I mean, I think Texas Southern, coach, there's an argument to be made that Texas Southern has some of the best individual talent in the conference last year.
Oh, ain't no doubt about it.
If you were just picking solo players, not teams, and yeah, the tight end's still back this year, Carlos says. So the tight end is back. He would be another guy that I would consider possibly for all conference coach if if there were 2 tight end spots per se. But I'll say this, because let's move to the East. My biggest takeaway was this, coach, is that I was a little surprised at the gap between the top 2 and Jackson.
Oh man, I mean, now I was even more puzzled, upset with this side than I was our side, just
Okay.
because, again, FAMU won it all. They won everything they could possibly win, right? And they brought in this massive star-studded recruiting class, right?
Yep.
They're the defending champs. You know, Ric Flair says it all the time. To beat a man, you got to beat the man, right? And they're 10 behind. I didn't get that. I didn't get that. I didn't get that at all. And like you said, the gap from 1 to 3 was really, 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 really surprising for me.
I mean, they have Jackson finishing closer to A&M, Alabama A&M, than FAM.
Yes,
And
yes,
let's also this too, coach, because we can blame the One Valley vote on Wade all we want. Coach, Alabama A&M had more first place votes than Jackson.
yes.
I got to hear the explanation from some coaches on that one.
What are we not knowing?
Now, because I look at A&M a little bit like I kind of just talked about with Texas Southern, where I think they have good individual talent, coach. They just haven't been able to put it together as a team. Where you got guys like DJ at tight end who you brought in from UT Martin. You have Tony coming from Sanford/Middle Tennessee State. You have Avion Smith coming in for quarterback. You have Pate at defensive back. You have Carson Vincent on the offensive line. But last year, coach, they really didn't look good in a lot of games.
Right.
They had that explosion against Grambling. They
Outside of
had
that game.
They had the second half. I wouldn't call it a comeback because Jackson still won by 15, but Jackson jumped out to a massive lead, and then Bama A&M kind of made it close. Close that third quarter. Then Jackson pulled away again late. They just weren't competitive in the game. I mean, because you got to think that team was what, 1 play away from possibly losing to UAPB at
Right.
home.
Yeah. When you
So
put it in that kind of perspective.
I personally don't see it. I do think this is, coach, if I'm not mistaken, this is how we had the East. Both of
Yeah.
us did.
Yeah.
Well, no, okay, not because I think if I'm not mistaken, in terms of record, we had Jackson and FAM above State, or no, it was like Jackson, then like Bama State, FAM were tied. So, I mean, coach, because we talked about it, Bama State could win the East, and FAM and Jackson could have playoff shots.
Yep. I can't believe
So,
not one coach is answering the phone.
listen, what we'll do is, man, we talked to Wade at Media Day. Wade's going to come on the coach's corner, man. We'll ask him about that in terms of voting and everything. And Coach Green, I don't think anyone's sleeping on Southern. I just think
Nope.
Southern has
So I just got a text.
Okay.
So I asked, with the voting, could you vote for your team in first place? Said, nope, we can't vote as such.
Coach, that means 4 coaches or SIDs think Alabama A&M is going to be better than Jackson this year.
And Carnell Maynard's not one of them.
I can see Connell being the Valley vote. That seems like a Connell move. Just me personally. I think that would be who I would pin that vote on if I had to pin it on somebody. I'll say this, and I really don't think people are sleeping on Southern, man. Like, you look at that team, Coach Green, and I know that's your team. You're going to ride for them and all that, but Coach, question marks on the offensive line, because their offensive line has not been what it is. And I've said this, the difference between Southern in those Odom's years, where they were constantly an 8-9 win team competing for division titles, the difference between those teams and the recent Southern teams has been offensive line play, in my opinion, and also poor quarterback decisions as well. And, we'll see. I do think Noah's is probably going to be the guy for Southern at quarterback. He started the Classic, won that one. But I still think there's an argument that the 2 freshmen are the most talented kids on the roster. And I'm curious to see how the quarterback battle plays out there. And also, Coach, I know you probably have a little bit of knowledge on this just watching the film on them, but I just don't know if they're going to have the defense to save them as their offense tries to figure it out. Like when we talk about a team like Morgan, Coach, like just stretching it to the MEAC, me and you are confident that if push comes to shove, the defense can save Morgan in a few games, right? Because the defense is going to hold those 2 teams. Yeah, and they did it all last year. I don't think Southern's defense is good enough to do that right now.
Right. And it's not just the quarterback questions. I just think they have, I don't want to say organizational, because I know Coach has done it before, right? He's done it before. Yep. But he hasn't done it this length of time ever. And what I mean by that is not 2 weeks to get ready for the Classic, but a whole summer into the season. And you got 80 million question marks already on the football side of things, not just the organizational side of things. So Coach has got a lot going on. I mean, he's got a full appetizer. He's got a full main course. He's got a full dessert. All that has got to come together. So when you say your trigger man may not be the trigger man, who's going to be the leader? You got questions up front. And everybody has questions, don't get me wrong. But I just think there's a lot more question marks there than we really understand or know, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And the thing is like, this is what happens, Coach. And as you stay in the media space long enough, you'll learn this. If people mistake having question marks about a team as you hating on the team or thinking they're going to be trash or this or that, I don't think Southern's going to be a bad team. I just question, is Southern going to be on par with the top teams in the conference? And last year they weren't. They lost to Alabama State. They lose to Jackson by double digits at home. They lose to FAM at home after having that game won, being pretty competitive early. FAM storms back and wins. Then you look at that Texas Southern game where, Coach, they were lucky to get out alive. In that one, they go to Lorman and get the doors blown off of them in Lorman, and they followed that up by losing to PV at home. And then they beat a Grambling team without a head coach last year. And didn't look dominant in that game either. It's just, I think Southern's going to be a middle-of-the-road team this year. They have average talent right now, and I just don't think they're going to be able to compete with the elite teams in the conference.
And I'm with you, because I think at the end of the day, you have a gazillion question marks. We're not hating. We're just saying the obvious. You know, you don't know what you got, and everybody has question marks. Don't get me wrong. We don't have it all figured out.
Yep.
Neither does. Well, I can't answer that for Bama State, but neither does anybody else have it all figured out.
Nobody has it figured out at all.
But I just think there's more question marks in Baton Rouge than there are in, say, Tallahassee, if that makes sense.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, if you're ranking team, like if I'm ranking, I'm not going to get you to do this, coach, because I don't want you to end up on a hype video somewhere later this season. But if I'm ranking teams from top to bottom, just in terms of pure talent, and I'm talking individual talent, Southern be behind Alabama State. Southern will be behind FAMU. Southern be behind Jackson State. Southern would be behind Alcorn. Southern be behind PV. And I think it would be a conversation surrounding Southern versus Alabama A&M when you're talking strictly individual talent.
And I'm with that.
And that's not, and that might not correlate to team success, but I'm just talking about looking at the players right now, top of my head. And then, coach, we did this on the last episode, and I won't mind doing it again. Their schedule is not a joke this year.
No, they got to
at McNeese, who's going to be led by Clifton McDowell, who just went to the national championship, at Jackson, at Prairie View, Nichols, who just won the Southland Conference. Then you got to go to Texas Southern, regardless of how you feel about them. That is still another road trip. Alcorn's coming in for your homecoming this year.
And we ain't happy about that.
Yeah. Then you're going to FAMU and Bragg, who, Mr. Cable can correct me, I think it's like 20-something, like I think 26 games straight winning streak at home. Hasn't lost there since 2018.
That's
and
tough.
Then you travel to Alabama A&M in Huntsville. And then you end and then one of your last games is obviously the Bayou Classic with Grambling State.
It's tough. And I mean, let me put my coaching hat on. Again, I go back to our first part of this discussion. This is all preseason. You've got to have luck. You've got to have the bounce go your way, regardless of any of that. But when you're coming into so many unknowns, and one of the unknowns is the top of your program, I think that right there. And then what is their first 3 games?
Who's Southern?
Yeah.
They have McNeese, Savannah State, then Jackson.
So there's not a lot of wiggle room to figure things out before you get to. And again, I know one of your pet peeves is that the Jackson game doesn't count in the SWAC standings. But there's not a lot. That game still means just as much.
Coach, they've never beaten McNeese, right? Never.
Right.
In the program's history.
I need them to do it this year, though.
If they lose to McNeese and Jackson, they're going to be 1-2 going on the road to Prairie View.
And the loser of that one, trust me, because I was there last year, the loser of that one is in chase mode the entire year, which puts pressure on you to be perfect from that point on.
And then, Coach, God forbid they're 1-3. Guess who you got coming to home the next week? Nichols.
Not a lot of wiggle room to get it right.
So Southern's going to have to win one of the two between McNeese and Jackson. Now, I'll give them a better chance of beating McNeese on the road. But, Coach, I don't even know if that's a guaranteed win.
No.
I would favor Southern in that game, though. I'm just going to say that. I think I did give them the win when we did the breakdown. Yeah. And Mr. Campbell makes a good point. FAM is 8-2 versus Southern in the last 10 games.
What are they versus Jackson in the last 4?
0-4?
They're 0-4, right?
Yeah, I don't. The last time Southern beat Jackson was what? 2019, 18.
Yeah, so I mean they're 0-4
because Southern didn't play Jackson during COVID, right? Because Southern set out that year, or that game might have got canceled. They lost in 21. I know. So when hang on, I'm trying to pull it up real quick. Yeah, they lost to Jackson that year because remember that was the game they got into the fight on the field because Jackson tried to plant the flag.
Flag at the end, yeah.
Yeah.
So I think it's their last 4
Okay,
meetings.
their last win was actually the COVID season. They played Jackson on April 3rd and beat them 34-14 in the vet. That was Prom's first season.
Oldham, yeah. Coach Oldham's. I remember that. Yeah,
I forgot that they played in the spring. I thought it was the year before that. Yeah, because and then they beat Jackson in 2019. The last 2 wins were 2019 and the COVID season.
So I mean, like I said, the last 4 have been they're 0-3 the last 3.
Yeah.
And you're coming off of McNeese, Savannah State. Now that Jackson game is where you're supposed to make the biggest jump, right? From week 2 to week 3.
And Jackson, and that game is going to be brutal to win in Jackson.
Crazy.
Coach, let's flip it. If Jackson's going to that game 2-0 with a win over ULM, good luck going into the vet with that fan base.
Oh man, it'll be close to 50,000 folks in there, man.
I was thinking he might be even higher than that, man. I mean, oh man, it's just for Southern, you got to. The Bayou Classic's important, obviously. I think.
Well,
and then
before you get to that,
yeah, but then I think that you probably got to win both out of conference games, right? And
you got to take one. You got to get at least one.
McNeese or Nichols, and obviously you want to. Oh, and that's also too. It's at night this year. Man. They're having a night kickoff in the vet for the first time in a while.
Oh man,
Coach, 6 p.m. kickoff in the vet, possibly 2-0 with an FBS win.
Oh man, oh man, that one now.
Oh man.
I mean, if we talking about getting game day and people out feel like a game, that is one that needs to be on television for real. I'm not talking about the public broadcasting system. I'm talking about that needs to be on, one of the networks for real.
I think it is. Isn't it on ESPNU? Someone in the chat correct me. I want to say that game's on ESPN. Or ESPN network at least. Maybe it's a rerun. I don't know. I did think that game got flexed to ESPN. If I'm not mistaken, let me double check though.
That school up the street mess around and beat ULM. It definitely will be changed.
Mm-hmm. I agree. I thought it was. I could be wrong though. I'm trying to find the schedule real quick because Southern didn't have the TV thing next to it, so I don't know. Maybe it didn't. Maybe it's on ESPN. Oh, okay, it's on ESPN Plus, I guess. But still, that needs to be on like ESPNU or something. That game's gonna be insane. Oh, ESPNU. Okay, yeah. So we got Flex ESPNU, which is good. It should have.
It needs to get one more bump. Needs to get one more bump.
Agreed. But man, Coach, let me get this down. Get back in our boxes. But any final takeaways, man? I'll be honest, I was a little surprised that they didn't go chalk because that's kind of been the MO for the SWAC. Recently where every year they just kind of vote the previous year's champion up there. I think they kind of I want to say it was I forgot who said it, but someone said they kind of like it, where the SWAC sounded like going out on a limb here and be like, we're really projecting rather than just, voting the
obvious.
Yeah, the obvious. So I still, I'm with you. I wouldn't have been mad if PV or Fan were still number 1. I was just a little surprised that Jackson was so low. Especially
so close to A&M. It's so close to A&M.
And then obviously the 4 first place votes for A&M was baffling. And then there's always like that one vote for Valley that comes out of nowhere. Like someone's just really, really hoping Valley puts this thing together and gets to East this year.
Jerry Rice is back.
Yeah, but it'll be interesting, man. I'll be very, very curious to see what the season holds, man. Listen, Coach, we are after today. There are 4 Saturdays left till week 0. 4 Saturdays, man. Coach, I want to switch to this, and then we can hit it with our final segment as always. But fall camp, man, should be coming up soon. I know there's some teams. I think the teams that play in week 0 start this weekend.
Not this weekend.
Or it's next week. Yeah, it's next week because I know McNeese and Tarleton has some media day issues because we're starting fall camp next week because they play on the 24th. Coach, when do y'all start? When do y'all start fall camp, man? What you looking forward to? All the kids back on campus already?
Yep, we've got everybody back. They've been working really hard. We officially kick off the camp, and it's changed so much, man. You know, and I'm gonna reach back because you're always saying how young you are and you don't remember all this, that, and the third. But this time of year used to be full of 3 days,
Yep.
you know, weights in the middle, all of that. And then it got kicked down to 2 days was the most you could have. So now you have to maximize the one practice that you get. And for us, we check the box for that on the 28th, next Sunday. And we're full steam ahead up to UAB. You know, so we've got 2 weeks coming up before the start of school, and then, you know, after that, you know, game week, and you know, really looking forward to it, just because of the outside noise, the outside hype with, you know, what the unknown is within the conference. You know, as soon as we finish that week 0 game, you know, hopefully on top, you pull up those scores and you want to see what everybody else did, you know, and then that following week, everybody else kicks off. And then, you know, that's when the real projections come into play to me. Okay, week 1, man, so-and-so got the doors blown off. Man, they were supposed to be this, that, and the third. Not looking so rosy right now. And, you know, like I said, when you play those early conference games, it really puts a premium on what you do early, because it puts you behind the 8, man. Lived it, watched it all last year, schedule watching, score watching, you know, down to the end. So it's up. Really looking forward to that 4 Saturday countdown. We get started, like I said, on the 28th, and we'll be from there, man. We'll figure it out.
Man, I'm so excited. Like you said, and there's always so many overreactions early in the season. I can't wait for someone to lose to an FBS school and everyone, you know, questioned everything about that program and the trajectory, and it was like
burn it down.
Burn it down. Alabama A&M loses to Auburn. Everyone was like, "I told y'all got to get Maynard out of there." It's like, can we see him play against a team on his level first? Yeah, and then also too the overreactions, because Coach, you know, I'm trying to work on a story. I was kind of looking at the most recent FCS teams to pull FBS upsets. Because you know how it is, man. A team, you know, if Jackson beats ULM, if Montana State beats New Mexico,
crown
if, man, national champions, conference champions, Coach, there's been a lot of teams recently, and I can't wait to do this breakdown for the site. A lot of the teams who have won FBS games have not been good.
Yeah, that's tough. It's tough.
So,
it's a slippery slope, because either way it goes, man, you've got to get your team back. You know, you're riding really high. We just beat UAB. That means absolutely nothing other than that we're 1-0. We got to get back focused. Nobody else cares that we beat UAB. Nobody else cares. Now, that only means for them, we beat Alcorn. That means that we could have beat UAB. You know, that's how the kids think. So it just adds to it. And you got to figure out a way to get your team back one way or another.
Coach, if you want to laugh, so last year there were 4 FCS over FBS upsets. Southern Illinois squeaked into the playoffs, only won 1 game in the playoffs. They beat Northern Illinois. Fordham beat Buffalo, didn't make the playoffs, and didn't even finish top 3 in their conference. Idaho beat Nevada 33-6, Coach. And
wow, I forgot about that.
And did not make the semifinals. Sacramento State beat Stanford, a Power 5 school.
Yep.
And Coach, they were the last team to make the
playoffs. Barely got in. Yeah, right. Barely got in. Got in.
I mean, you're looking, because like in 2022, Eastern Kentucky beat Bowling Green, didn't win a playoff game. You had Weber State beat Utah State, didn't win a playoff game. Southern Illinois beat Northwestern. I don't think they made the playoffs in 2022. Sac State beat Colorado State, didn't win a playoff game. So, I mean, or no, they won one. They won one in 2022. My bad. Because there were teams that beat FBS schools in like 2021, 2019 that didn't have winning records in the FCS.
Didn't scratch the surface, and I forgot about the
Idaho blowout.
Yeah.
They beat. I mean, bro, that's when we were like Giovanni McCoy for Heisman.
Yeah, I don't even know if he got a Heisman vote.
Oh man, I'm dead. But and Mr. Campbell makes a good point. This is going to happen if FAMU loses to Miami and Troy, and they're 2-2. People are going to be screaming that FAMU has a problem, despite them potentially beating Norfolk and South Carolina State.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, it's going to be that kickoff classic. I think is going to be one of those most watched type things, games that will have a whole bunch of hype for the winner and a whole bunch of doom for the loser from folks like us watching. You know what I mean?
Exactly. Hey, Coach Green, I don't love it, but that's what happens when you're that good. Is they had an FCS school back out of a non-conference home and home agreement, and they were forced to put that D2 game on the schedule. That happens, and that's why you saw North Dakota State not have an FBS game for what, Coach, 6 years, because after they started,
nobody wants to play them.
Nobody wants to play them, and Coach Green, I don't know about you. There's not many schools that would that are going to sign up to go play in Brookings right now and get their heads beat in for $300,000.
It's too risky.
So they had someone back out. That's why they have it. I don't love it. Same thing with Morgan, Coach. Morgan had a home and home with a CAA school, I want to say, and the CAA school had a conference. Something happened, and they had to back out. And Morgan got forced to put like Virginia Lynchburg on the schedule just because no one was available.
And besides, none of those other teams are going to want to play Morgan. They saw that Akron deal, so they're not going to be able to get anybody from that conference to play them.
No, that's why I don't understand why the Patriot League keeps scheduling. I don't understand why the MAC keeps scheduling Patriot League teams. The MAC has lost to the Patriot League every season for like 4 or 5 straight years. It was like, bro, can you pick on another FCS conference so they can stop beating y'all every single season? It was Holy Cross, then it was Fordham. Lafayette's going to knock off a MAC team this year. I'm telling you, Lafayette's going to run for 400 yards on somebody with Jamar. And so I will say also, Coach, it's sad with the home and home backouts because it kind of screwed Incarnate Word last year. They finished 9-2, missed the playoffs because Sanford backed out of a home and home in like July. And so they had to play American University, and it killed. If they replace that with Sanford and win that game, Incarnate Word's probably in the playoffs, and Sac State's on that.
No doubt about it.
That's how iffy it is. But no, I don't like D2 games, but I understand stuff happens. The only D2 games I don't like is when people seek them out and play them yearly, but we'll leave that one. That's for another show on another day. But Coach, man, let's end this off, man.
Keep or delete?
Oh, Lord.
You know how we do it. Last week I let you off a little light, man, but I got a couple. We're only doing 5, but I got a couple. I got to pick the best 5. So if anybody wants to get involved with this keep or delete with Blue, just DM me. Don't DM him because we don't want him to know what we're asking. All right, because it gives him a chance to kind of get his footing. We want to put him on the spot. Yeah, we want to put him on the spot. Let's start it like this right here, brother. You ready?
I'm always ready, man.
All right, here we go. Appetizers or desserts?
Appetizers.
What's your favorite appetizer since we're on it?
Ooh, it probably depends on the restaurant, right? I get down with some mozzarella sticks now.
Okay.
I feel like that's like Old Faithful, right?
Okay, I thought you were going to say
it's hard to mess up. No, I'm not a pickle guy.
Okay, let's move on. Let's move on. You getting with this foolishness early. 3:30 game CBS, 8 o'clock game ESPN.
Ooh, always down for night games. Always down for night games. I will say this: if you would have if I could throw honorable mention, ABC though is the one.
They're 8 o'clock game.
8 p.m. game. ABC.
Yeah.
Hurt Street. Reese Davis.
Yeah.
Man,
yeah.
sign me up. Goosebumps.
Yeah. Yeah. Here we go. Bo Jackson in his prime or Prime in his prime?
Oh, God, that's so. Ooh. Okay, so hang on. I got to clarify this. Are we talking NFL or are we talking college?
We're saying NFL.
Oh, well, it's got to be Prime then. Bo got hurt, and Bo was playing baseball half the year.
Right. Now, he got 4 good years in there.
Now, I'm going to say a controversial opinion. Who was the better pure athlete? Bo Jackson. It wasn't even close.
That's for another show because we could go.
Coach.
We can go debate. We can go point for point on this one now.
Like, if we're just talking straight line speed,
we can go point for point. We can go point for point.
Bo Jackson
he could swing the bat
Deion out the weight room.
He could swing the bat.
Bo was a better baseball player than Prime.
He could play both sides of the ball. He could return it, kick or punt. So, I mean, we could go. But anyway.
It's Bo Jackson. But in the chat, I need y'all to settle that debate. Who is the better pure athlete, Bo Jackson or Deion Sanders?
Deion won a celebrity dunk contest. I don't remember Bo being in one.
Bo would have tore the rim off that thing. He was so strong.
I'm just saying. But we'll see what the chat says. Here we go. Kobe or LeBron?
Oh, LeBron.
Ooh, they're going to come after you for that one.
I don't care. LeBron over Michael, too.
Ooh, they're going to really come after you. Hey, here we go. Flats or drums?
I don't have a preference. I like them both. But if I had to pick, probably flats.
Okay. I think we've done this one, so I'm not going to ask you that. Have we done that? I've actually SWAC or MEAC football. Have we done? We did that one in the first one, right? Yeah. Okay. And then you said that. Okay, Ford or Dodge?
Neither.
Delete both?
Yeah, delete both. I'm good on that. Do I want to be broken down the side of the road or broken down the side of the road in 2 months? I'm good on that, bro. Hell no, bro. It's Toyota or Chevy for me. Every single car I've had is one of those two.
Okay. Snickers or Twix?
Not a fan of either, really. I guess I would say Snickers, though.
Okay, Snickers. All right, now last one. If you had to fly to a game, all right, are you flying to a game in October on the West Coast, South, or East Coast?
In October?
In October.
I mean, I guess it depends on the game, though. Because I'll say this, like the stadium that like I would probably go to if I had a choice is the Rose Bowl. Like that's a game. That's the stadium I want to see a game at. It's like that's obviously the pinnacle of college football, but I'll probably say South, man. The best football is played down here. Therefore, best fan bases, all that good stuff. So probably stick in the South.
Night game at UF or night game in Death Valley? Last question.
Oh, Death Valley for sure. I've been to night games in Death Valley. Well, like my old co-host lives in Baton Rouge, just graduated from there from grad school. Shout out to my guy B-Dub. But yeah, night game in Baton Rouge for sure.
Okay, I know you're an Auburn guy, so that was going to be tough.
Now listen,
I felt like that was going to be tough.
No, it wasn't tough because guess what? I'm never going to see Auburn play in Death Valley ever again. I've been 3 times, coach, and it's been the most 3 horrifying experiences of my life. So like I'll give you the synopsis. My freshman year, me and my guy Blake drove from Auburn to Death Valley in 2015, my freshman year of college. That was the Leonard Fournette game.
Okay.
Where he ran for like 300 yards and was tossing, like suplexing people over the top of them. Never again. The next game I went to was in 2017. And I went with the family because my mom's never been to a game. So I took her, my little sister came, my good friend Jacob came. That was the year before they got Joe Burrow. Auburn was up 20-0 in the second half. So I'm feeling good. Come back. LSU finds a way to win.
Ran down.
And then I went this past year and watched Jaden Daniels put up like 47 on Auburn. So
they said between that and the Texas A&M game with the two games that they said won in the Heisman.
Yeah. So, but no, but like I like Baton Rouge, man. Listen, we talked about this other show. Louisiana food is different. Tailgate food, the seafood, man. I'm down for going to Baton Rouge whenever.
Okay, spoken by a true.
And I agree, Mr. Campbell. Florida State has a better night environment than Florida.
I didn't want to be biased because, no ties, all that kind of stuff. Yeah. I didn't want to be biased in asking that. But as an Auburn guy, I felt like that would put you in more of a, neither type situation. But you rattled off that Death Valley quick.
I will say, I've been to games all over the place. The two loudest I've probably ever been to, and the first one's super underrated, Clemson. I went to a night game at Clemson back when they were like winning national titles, like when they had Deshaun Watson.
Okay.
Bro, deafening in that stadium. And it was a night game early in the season. They gave out the rings that game. Oh yeah, it was insane. The other one is Georgia.
Really?
Man, I went to a night game in Georgia, and man, it was just insane, man. Athens is different when like Georgia's really good. It's funny because so when I was in college, the girl I was dating lived in Atlanta. Her dad was a season ticket holder for Georgia. So he would, anytime Auburn played a BS school, I would ride up with him and go to the Georgia game if they had a good game. And it was Kirby Smart's first year as the head coach of Georgia. If you remember, that was the year they lost to Vanderbilt.
Yeah, and there was questioning.
Bro, I was at the game where Bama blew them out. In the rain. I was there when Vandy beat them, and I remember leaving the stadium like, bro, Kirby's going to get fired in like 2-3 years, and then they ended up winning the Natty, But the craziest game I've ever been to, I was at Georgia, Tennessee, and I think it was like, God, probably 2016-ish. Do you remember the game where Tennessee hit the Hail Mary in Athens to upset Georgia?
Yeah, Kirby Smart? They went crazy. Yeah.
Dude, I was at that game.
How'd you get tickets?
Homegirl's dad was a season ticket holder. So I was on like the 40-yard line, like 8 rows up.
But I'm saying, like, for that, I would think that he would, not that he didn't like you, but I was just thinking that, that big a deal that, that
to
big
be fair,
game.
He had 2 girls, so he had no sons. So therefore, he would always bring me if I wanted to go because it would give him someone to talk football with.
Okay.
So yeah, I got a good situation. But dude, I remember sitting there and I was in the season, the season ticket holder crowd is all Georgia fans, bro. Georgia hit that long, like I think it was like a wheel route or something, scored, deafening, bro. I couldn't even hear myself think. Crowd's going crazy. Tennessee hits that Hail Mary, and I went cheering, but I jumped up and was yelling. I look around, no one else is standing up, and everyone's just sad. I was like, I'm gonna get killed in Athens.
That was your last trip.
Facts. And also, yeah, I do. And Miss Campbell makes a good point. I do want to go to a Tennessee game. I heard Neyland at night is different too.
Now, I had a friend that played at Alabama, and he said that back in the day when Tennessee was really, really rolling, he said you would get sick of. He said watching it on TV doesn't do it justice, but he said they must have played Rocky Top 87 times, and he said you would just get sick of that to the point that you've heard it so much. And he played for Alabama, my friend Tommy, and he said that you would find yourself sitting there going da. Da, 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 da. It just kept playing in your mind. It's like it's TV doesn't know justice, so that might be a spot to hit for real.
Yeah, and I think Mr. Campbell was on Scotty's show and talked about it, bro. Mr. Campbell went to one of the Tennessee games and they played Rocky Top like 900 times that game.
Oh man, 4 more Saturdays, baby, 4 more.
Yes, man. Almost there, man. But I appreciate y'all tuning in, man. An hour and a half,
Yes, yes.
a real nice SWAC Media Day recap. Me and Coach are going to be back. We got some coaches' corners lined up. I got some player interviews for myself lined up. We're going to have some more live streams, and we're really going to start breaking down some preseason topics. Me and Coach might chop it up about the All-American list. Sometime next week. That dropped last week, man. Shout out to everyone Timothy, Gerald, everybody who helped me put that together. But guys, hit the like
Good one.
button, subscribe, all that good stuff. And also go check out Coach's Common Man podcast, man. He's been killing it with the content. Just got to sit down with Coach TC Taylor, Coach O, a bunch of other special guests, man. So make sure to go subscribe to the Common Man podcast, man. They are doing just an amazing job with content. And Mr. Campbell's comment, he said, "Bro, you just can't help but sing it." Talking about the Rockets.
da, 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 da. My friend Tommy Johnson, like I said, man, he played at Alabama, won a national championship there, and he said they played it so much that you found yourself on the sideline humming it. Like, wait a minute, I played Alabama.
Download it on the iPad later and just listen to it on like Wednesday.
Yes, sir.
Oh, man. But guys, we appreciate y'all tuning in. But for myself, for Coach, for FCS Football Central, and the Blue Bloods, man, we out for right now.